Okay, all these solenoids have 3 O-rings, small, medium, large. I have this rubber seal that goes on the front. I'll show you how to put that on in just a sec. All the solenoids are all the same. Our bracket goes on. Gotta make sure it's around those seals. 8 millimeters hold this in. I don't think you need to see me tighten these down. Alright, in order to do the seal, you just peel it off, and it's got a little notch in it. It's got to go around the connector, of course. Just peel it around, and once you get it on there, you're gonna see it's not quite right. Just kind of wiggle it around, and it'll work its way in. Make sure that you get that bracket around those properly. Okay, all I got to do is tighten these down now, and we'll be back when we get the next part. Okay, on your small parts here, you have a spring that goes in here. An accumulator has a sealing ring on it. It is scarf cut, so it goes together just like so. We have the stiff spring, 1/4-inch ball, light spring, 1/4-inch ball. On your separator plate, some of the late ones have bonded gaskets. Just leave it alone. If it does not have a bonded gasket, do not put a gasket on it. They give you 2 gaskets sometimes in the kit, sometimes only 1. A lot of times this hole right here will not line up, and there's actually a bulletin out there about not using the gasket. Now look, that one's blocking it. But still, do not put, if it does not have a bonded gasket, do not put one on it. If it has a bonded gasket, just leave it alone. You got 8 millimeters that are holding this in. A lot of times these dowel pins will get stuck in a case. You do want to line it up on here. A 1/4-inch ball goes there. 2 of the light springs go in here. Ball on top of each one. Separator plate, be careful when you're putting this on that you don't knock the ball off. 2 dowel pins on here. Now, I want to go ahead and put my wiring harness up through here. I leave my detent on there. You can do it however you want to do it. Actually, I'm going on the wrong side of that. Okay, our plate goes on top. $10mm hold this in. This bracket goes down here. The little tab goes in that hole right there. Alright, 2 red wires and tan wire in the top, 2 red wires and the green wire in the middle, and the clear connector, black wire and 2 tans, brown and tan, brown and red, red and black on our temp sensor. There is an O-ring on here. Probably want to lube that up. These 2 exhaust balls, make sure that they are in there. If they aren't in there, actually I do have the detent on the wrong side. I did it wrong anyway. If they are not in there, the unit will work, but it won't work properly. There's an O-ring on the connector, so you want to make sure that these balls are in there. And swap this detent to the other side, and we're done with this valve body. Okay, overdrive and reverse drum, we have D rings on all of this, on all these drums. Large one goes down in the bottom, small one goes up top here. Make sure that you have not rolled them. Get a fair amount of lube on there. On the pistons here, you're going to want to grab the largest ring that you can that doesn't fit too loose. This one right here, you're not going to be able to screw up. It's the largest one in the kit. It's these other 2 that you got to make sure that you get right. So we're going to go with this one. We're going to see how this fits. It's kind of tight. Might be okay. That's going to be too loose, so we need the other one. Okay. Get nice and lubed up. And there's little tips on this piston. These little holes right here need to line up on the return spring there. Springs are going to fit up inside of those. Be careful as we're pushing this down in there that we do not cut our rubber ring. There's a taper to your snap ring. Almost always the short end of the taper goes up towards you. If it's a little bent out of shape, you can give it a few wraps and make sure it's back into shape. And then we are going to put the opening over in here. We don't want, if it will straddle, you might could put it there, but we're going to put it right there. Okay, start off with the steel. Yes, there's a few little heat marks on there, but they will be okay. As long as our steels fit down in the piston properly, which that's too tight right there. We'll move this around and see if we can get it looser. Almost. Alright, may be replacing these steels. There we go. Nice and loose right there. And we keep our cutouts together. Snap ring. And snap ring. This bearing in the back. Alright, underdrive clutch, D-ring in here. Here again, we want to make sure we get the right O-ring on here. If that one's too loose, it goes on this one. Alright, same way with this spring cage. And same way with the snap ring, short end of the taper up, opening over in here. Same way with our steels, going to keep the cutouts together. Step of the pressure plate faces up. Got our snap ring. Alright, we got 2 sealing rings on here. Here again, these are butt cut. A lot of these were steel.
Also, the tip numbers for the 67. Did you check the drum books?
Yeah. Alright, these are butt cut also. You put some grease in the groove of this sealing ring groove right here to help keep it in there if need be. Just open up the sealing ring just enough to get it into the groove. Our input shaft goes in here. You do not have to take this input shaft off. The snap ring, short end of the taper up. I have to get a different pair of snap ring pliers for this. Yep, there we go. Just make sure we are all the way in that groove. And then for our hub that sits underneath here, there's nothing underneath. This bearing goes here. The drum's going to sit on top. And a plastic washer goes between the drum and the pump. Okay, there's no reason really to take this out of here unless the sprag is bad. And especially the snap ring, there's no need to take the snap ring out. You have a race that goes here. You have the sprag. It has a ridge on one end that faces the inside of the transmission. You have another race on the outside here. This ring just snaps on the back side here. Like I said, there's no reason to take all that out. I'm going to go ahead and put the planet together right now. This planet sits inside. I did forget my snap ring. Alright, this bearing sits in there. This sun gear goes on top. This bearing goes on top of this planet. Planet goes inside of that planet, and then this snap ring goes here. Our sun shell will sit on top of that. This bearing will go here. This hub will go on top of that. This bearing will sit there. Okay, on your pump, I've already, because I have to do this over at the arbor press, I've already put the seal in. Now, the pump bushing that they sent me was smooth. The one that's in here has dimples. It's not in bad enough shape that I'm gonna change it out to a smooth bushing. I like the dimples to be in there. So on the seal, I use 3M weather strip adhesive on the seal. On your pump gears, the dots face up. I'll go ahead and set this here so that we can start our bolts. Line up your ports. They're 30 Torx bolts. Strangely enough, they do not give torque specs for these bolts. They do for the others, but they don't for this. So I put it through a bolt calculator, and comes out to 89 inch-pounds, is right about where I was expecting it to be. So we're gonna get these just barely touching. Now, I highly recommend that you get the line-up tool for this. It can be done without it, but you're going to be guessing, and it's not worth all the work that you got to do to pull it back out and try to line the pump back up again if you get it wrong. So Sonex sells it. Just make sure we're turning smoothly. It's just a KM pump alignment tool. Okay. Make sure that we're all the way up in there. Just go in a star pattern like always. Just double check, make sure that we did not miss one, and that they are all where they need to be. Alright, we have sealing rings here. They are hook and loop. Oh no, these are butt cut. Some of these are steel, so these are plastic. Let's see what they gave us in the kit. Looks like they gave us steel ones for the kit. So I need to check these on the drum and make sure that they do fit nice and snug. These are hook and loop. The originals or plastic and butt cut. I'm almost tempted to reuse the originals, but like I said, these did come with steel rings, so I think I should be okay. Our gasket is going to go on here. We're going to put some grease to hold this in place while we flip it over and stick it on. I'm not going to do that right now. Front side is an O-ring. We'll go ahead and pull our alignment tool out now. When we go putting this pump down inside there, this oil slingers are going to go here. Our bolts that hold the pump in, 15 to 19 foot-pounds. Okay. Okay, for the second brake, we have D-rings again. we get ready to put the clutches into the case, we'll set this on top of the last steel, but it does need to fit around that, just like that. There's a lineup tab here. It has our feed port. It's going to line up in the case. This is going to come in from the valve body side and seal off. And we need to make sure that these little feet are not blocking the hole. Okay, on the low reverse, I have a lineup tab that has to fit in a notch in the case. We'll talk about that when we get there. We have our return spring that sits on top, our plate, then our sprag race has a seal in the back of it. It has a pointed end. You need to make sure that pointed end is facing up, the flat end is inside. And sometimes they do not fit properly, so if you get that, probably going to have to reuse the old one, because I don't think I have any extra. Alright, this one is not fitting. It's way too wide. So it's way too big also. I don't know. I'm gonna see if I got another one, but when we put this race inside there's these two oiling holes. Some of these have a notch on them. They'll have two notches on it. In any case, you need to make sure that this lines up in an oiling slot, and it should be, you know, at the 12 and 6 o'clock position. And then the short end of our taper of our snap ring is going to fit up again. This goes there. When you put this, if you do not have a solid ring, you need to replace this. If it looks like this looks like this, you need to replace it with a solid one. And it fits down in that groove right there. Must be sitting down inside there. So make sure all that happens. Alright, let me get this out the way. On our back cover here, we have our sealing rings. You need to make sure these ring lands are not worn out. Here again, they gave me steel rings for here. That's fine. As long as these are sealing okay, you'll probably be okay if you want to use the plastic ones. The plastic ones are butt cut again. Steel ones are hook and loop. Okay, and then our selective shim race goes back here in the back. Silicone on here, 12 millimeters that holds all that in. I'm not sure what the torque spec is on that yet. We'll worry about that when we get there. Okay, we got our low reverse piston gonna go in here. This is the little notch that the wheel has to fit into. This little dude. Make sure that you do get it lined up and all the way down. Otherwise, your clearance is going to come out wrong. Alright, I think we're down. Our return spring, our plate. Okay, now here's our oiling holes. There's notches in here. This will only line up on these little tabs right here, but you want to make sure that the oiling hole is, it's not quite straight up and down, but it's pretty dang close to it. Now, short end of the taper of our snap ring up. Okay, we got this ring. Make sure it's down in that groove. See if we can get this a little bit closer. Alright, our planet assembly. Going to go in, turn counterclockwise, lock clockwise. Okay, bottom apply plate. Okay, so we got the plate here. We have these 2 feet that go down here. You got these clutches. And then we're going to alternate steels and clutches. And then on their last one there, we got the snap ring. It is 79 thousandths, I believe. Yes, 79 thousandths. It's going to go in the bottom groove. Okay, then we have this pressure plate. See, it's got a step to it. The step is going to face down, and don't forget to put your last clutch in there. It'd be bad if you do. And our pressure plate goes with the step down. Then we have a snap ring that is 89 thousandths, if I remember. 86. And our snap ring goes in. Oh, come on. Planet's kind of right in my way. Get in the groove. Alright, check our clearance here. Alright, we're good. Our shell. And we got these clutches. And our first steel has a step on it, like that. Step goes down. we got this return spring. Then our locating tab goes here. Our feed port's going to be right here. Got to go fairly straight. Okay. And our snap ring, make sure that the opening is inside an area where it's got the snap ring's not sitting out in an opening like this. And just kind of tap it into place. Make sure we're all the way up in that groove. Our bearing, our hub, our bearing, our drum with our bearing inside of it. Sounds like we're down. Try to save your O-rings, because if you get a cheaper kit like they got me on this one, a lot of times these O-rings will not fit. And if you don't have extras, you're going to be trying to hunt some down. I don't like Toledo kits for foreign stuff, and they seem to want to get me Toledos here lately. I know parts are getting hard to find, but still. Alright, put you a thin bead of silicone. You can use the pink stuff like they had from the factory, or I just use the Loctite 598. It works really well. You don't need a super big bead, just a thin bead. Alright, you can use an H gauge here to get your shim, and make sure it's on there. Put your rear cover on. And our 12 millimeters. 15 to 19 inch foot-pounds. I gotta grab this phone, so we'll be back. The tranny will be flipped over. Okay, I think I said when I did the disassembly video that there's a crush sleeve in here. Misspoke on that. There's not a crush sleeve. There's a shim in there that you got to select, and it sets your preload correctly. So there's no need to take any of this apart. I've never had one that had a bad bearing in here, so there's no need to do anything there. On the back here, you can change the seal out, but there's no need to take all that out unless you just want to. The spring for the park is here, loops around here, loops around the back side of the park mechanism. There's a pin here, here, and here. Make sure that you get all this in, you pay attention to how this all went, because it only goes in there one way, and it'll only work properly well, let me say that differently. It'll go in there more than one way. It'll only work properly one way. We have our hub. Our bearing goes on the front here. Our drum with our plastic washer in the front. You'll know this is all the way down when you look through the speed sensor hole, and the rotor here is in the center. Alright, get you some grease. See if I can do this where you can see it. Get you some grease, or you can put gasket sealer on here too if you want to. It doesn't need gasket sealer, but you can put it on there. I just use grease to hold the gasket in place. Put our pump in place. Alright, what is our problem? Oh, trying to cut the sealing ring. May have to put some grease on there. Let's try that again. Alright, our oil slinger goes in here. 12 millimeters for our pump. They have that on the head of them, and they're kind of a goldish color. 15 to 19 foot-pounds on the bolts here. lube up your pump O-ring. There are two O-rings that go in the case, here and here. Here again, you want to make sure that you got the right ones, because if they're like those are too thin, I don't think we're going to have the right ones in this kit. So we're going to have to use these old ones. Alright. And make sure that you got the right filter. There are different ones. And it goes in this hole up here. There is an O-ring on it. Make sure you don't cut it. There we go. And our differential is going to sit in here. Thin layer of silicone again. Alright, the bolts on here are 14 millimeter. Two of them are special. You want to make sure that you put them in the right spot, otherwise you can break your case. Okay, most of them are black like that. Two of them are silver. Okay, I don't know if we're going to get a good view of this. The two silver ones go right here. I don't know if I said it before, but 30 to 40 foot-pounds on these bolts. Once I get this tightened down, we'll be over at the valve body. Let's see what kind of view we can get here. So there's a filter that goes right here. Just put some grease on it to hold it in place. I already put this in there so I can get a picture of it. Let me get this back out of there. You got a little notch in the seal. You want that to line up in that port right there. Alright, your accumulators mark your accumulators. Most of the information that you're going to find out there is probably not going to match whatever you have. So hopefully you have a unit that nobody's jacked with and has put crap in the wrong place. This may or may not match yours. I don't know if it will or not. We're going to go ahead and measure these, but it probably is not going to match yours. The outer spring 2.553, outside diameter 890, coil 156, inner spring 2.094, 0.545, 0.109. You may or may not have ink stamps on the end of these. Some of them are hard to see, some of them have paint, like I'll show you here in a minute. Put your accumulators up in the bore first. The sealing rings on them are scarf cut, they go together like so. These, see, have yellow on them, and they may or may not have a gap in them, may have 2 gaps. All that makes a difference. So there's a bunch of different ones, like I'm saying, so may or may not match yours. 2.623, 0.902, 0.139, 2.262, 0.566, 0.103. May or may not have 3 what would be considered white ones or clear ones, maybe 2 green ones down here and 2 white ones. If they're the same color, they're the same accumulator, it's just the springs that are different. This one here has white on it. It does have a gap. 2.564, 0.907, 0.138, 2.135, 0.580, 0.112. This one only has a single spring, no colors that I can tell. And a lot of times you get these in solvent and it's going to wash that right off. 2.546, 0.903, 0.159. Okay. Alright, on your linkage, you got 2 O-rings. One is for the case here, one is for the neutral switch. Make sure this is facing this way. The pin is going to go in here in this little notch. Come on, baby. Get up in there. Oh, of course you fall out. Okay. Our linkage has to go in this slot right here. Wiring harness has to go up through. Little rooster comb has to sit on here. We got 2 guide pins that line up in the case. So really long black bolts go in the center, and I'm just gonna stick one in there and kind of tighten it up. Not tight, but just before tight, to keep everything up in place. Let me get my linkage or my harness up in there. Before we get too much further. Just use a pry bar to push it up into place. This little clip locks in the groove that's there. Okay, we have two really short ones that go up here. It's really kind of hard to screw these bolts up. Most of them are this length right here, and they go in all these spots on the outside. Okay, then we got a few others that are different. The two that are like this go down here. One goes, let's see, I think, yeah, this one goes on the longer one goes here. These chrome ones, the next to the longest one goes on should go here. Why are we too short? Maybe I did get this wrong. Like I said, it's kind of hard to screw it up. They won't quite reach if you get it wrong. 95 inch-pounds. I'm going to start in the center, work our way out. Okay. The only thing that's left is so I'm gonna go ahead and measure that pin if I can get it back out. Because it is easy to get lost. Pin is 1 inch 15 by 0.117. Okay, there's no need for you to watch me put a pan on. They probably will give you a pan gasket in the kit. My recommendation is don't use it, just put silicone. Oh, this pin keeps coming back out. Must be some pressure behind it. Speed sensors. Okay. Look up here. O-rings on your speed sensors. This one here is your output. This one here is your input. Here's a seal on the back of your neutral switch. Be sure it is there. there's a hole here on your linkage here. There's a hole, put a drill bit in there. Once it's lined up, tighten your bolts down. All right, 10 millimeters on all of that. Over here is our speedometer, O-ring on it. And 10 millimeter for that. Okay. My clip's not quite in there, right? Lost another battery. This thing has a way of dying right as you're about to get done. So you got washers that go on each side of your banjo bolts. And just in case this dies, because I'm done, there's a 10 millimeter that holds this on right here. 3/4 on the banjo bolts, and of course the 10 millimeter on that. If you can't get the washers or they don't come in your kit, just flat file them. Flat file your banjo bolts. I mean, not your bolts, but your cooler lines and your and the washers, and it'll seal up. Okay, we're done with this unit.